We at CCJC thought it was fitting that during the National Victims of Crime Awareness Week, we should share our learnings about victim empathy with offenders. For that is locating empathy in an unlikely place, in unlikely people, but resonates well with the principles of restorative justice and the trajectory of CCJC's mission to serve as a shining light for restorative approaches to justice and corrections. Seeing through the bars also illustrates the strong element of empathy throughout the Christian story, which the CCJC, after 40 plus years of existence, continues to seek to be faithful to. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, one of the most famous of Jesus' parables, we see clearly that empathy can come from an unlikely situation and in an unlikely person. Keep in mind, as you listen to what follows, it was axiomatic for Jesus' listeners to brand Samaritans as the ultimate other in their world, devoid of basic humanity. So reading from Luke's Gospel in the 10th chapter, reads like this. Just then a religious scholar stood up with a question to test Jesus. Teacher, what do I need to do to get eternal life? He answered, well, what's written in God's law? How do you interpret it? He said that you should love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and muscle and intelligence, and that you love your neighbor as well as you do yourself. Good answer, said Jesus. Do it, and you will live. Looking for a loophole, he asked, and just how would you define neighbor? Jesus answered by telling a story. There was a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, and on the way he was attacked by robbers. They took his clothes, beat him up, and went off, leaving him half dead. Luckily, a priest was on his way down the same road, but when he saw him, he angled across to the other side. And then a Levite religious man showed up, and he also avoided the injured man. A Samaritan traveling the road came on him. When he saw the man's condition, his heart went out to him. He gave him first aid, disinfected and bandaged his wounds. And then he lifted him onto his donkey, led him to an inn, and made him comfortable. In the morning, he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, take good care of him, and if it costs any money, put it on my bill, and I'll pay you on my way back. What do you think? Which of the 3 became a neighbor to the man attacked by robbers? Asked Jesus. Well, the one who treated him kindly, the religious scholar responded. And Jesus said, go and do the same. I would suggest, friends, that the scandal in the parable is that not only can empathy be found in an unlikely place and in an unlikely person, but that the category of neighbor is boundless, permeable, and extending far past the other and the outsider. Our calling is to love our neighbor, which is anyone and everyone, without any wiggle room, without any loopholes. Jesus made it clear that neighbor means anyone and everyone. There are no exceptions, including those we want to write off or the ones society wants to write off or put in the category of otherness. So that is one zoomed-in look at the biblical imperative that calls the church councils to pay attention to empathy. And standing further back, zooming out of this parable, the Christian story itself hinges on empathy. God coming in Christ was victim empathy work with offenders as well, indeed with humanity. As L. Ann Jervis says it, the New Testament believes that God is an empathetic God, that God's empathy extends beyond the capacity to understand human experience to actively entering into human existence. The New Testament presents Jesus as a supreme example of empathy, as one who fully understands both the experience of God and the experience of humanity. And St. Paul challenges followers of Jesus to empathize fully with Jesus' faith and his death and hope for resurrection. So ultimately, CCJC is interested in nurturing empathy because God, in sending Jesus, has and does so with humanity. Our motivation compels us to get behind providing opportunities for victim empathy and drawing it out in places and people who society would rather not entertain, such as federal offenders.